I have a riddle to solve, and you might be able to help me solve it. You see, I think that 2024 might represent an inflection point for the flow arts as the community transitions out of one generation of artists and into another. But why do I believe that, and what might be in store for the future? Let's find out together. Drex here from Drex Factor Poi, sharing with you the love of poi spinning and flow arts to benefit your body and brain. And in this video, I'm going to outline why I think there's cause for both concern and hope for the future of the flow arts. But before we dive in, I just want to give a quick shout out to the friends of the channel. Big thanks to Dark Monk, Fire Mecca, Flow Fests, Flow Toys, Pyroterra Light Toys, and Ultra Poi for helping to make the videos on this channel possible. You can learn more about all these awesome companies and the work they're doing to support flow artists like yourself by checking out the links down in the description of this video. And special thanks to the non-business friend of the channel, Pekka Pekkonen. Thank you so much for supporting my channel, my work, and my mission. In the past week, I've been assembling several threads that have been drifting through my head for weeks, if not months now. And that's led me to realize that I have some questions that I don't know if I have the answers to. And I'd love it if some of you could help me answer them. But first, we need to understand how I got to that point. Why do I think that 2024 is an inflection year, and what does that mean for the future? Let me walk you through how I got here. And it's going to start off, just like my own flow journey did way back in 2006, with Burning Man. In 2024, for the first time in more than a decade, the Burning Man Arts Festival failed to sell out of tickets. It is facing a financial shortfall so extreme that it is seeking $20 million in support to balance its year-end books. And Burning Man wasn't the only event to struggle with attendance this year, but many others had it much worse. Festivals like All In, Firefly, Lucidity, and Sonic Bloom are among the huge list of events that did not happen in 2024. And that's not to even include the events that said 2024 would be their last year. And these events are important to the flow arts community, or at least the version of it that we've had for the past decade and a half. These music and art festivals are where many people are first introduced to a prop. They have a huge role in people discovering the flow arts in the first place. They also share many traits in common with the fire and flow festivals that cater more specifically to the flow community and which have been on the steady decline for more than a decade now. Companies in the flow arts are pretty notorious for their lack of transparency and operational opacity. But I will say that in an exchange with the manager of one of the larger flow events here in the United States last week, I was told that their attendance has not returned to pre-COVID levels, and even those levels were not exactly what you'd call sustainable. And there's also online engagement. For 10 years now, I've kept track of traffic to the biggest channels that produce content related to flow arts, juggling, circus, fire spinning, and related topics, and the past 2 years have seen a pretty steep decline across the board in their traffic. I've certainly seen this on my own channel. I used to regularly top 1,000 views in the first 24 hours for many of my videos. Now, if that's going to happen at all, it can take up to a week to get there. And I've heard anecdotal evidence from other flow artists on social media that they're also seeing a traffic decline on their content posted to TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. This all seems pretty bad, right? The events that channel people into the flow arts are experiencing a massive decline in interest, and online engagement also reveals a similar decline. That sounds like a lot of data points suggesting that the flow arts might be in trouble. So what if I told you that every prop manufacturer I've talked to in the past 2 years has told me that 2023 was one of, if not their best year of sales ever? What? How does that make sense? I've been trying to resolve this paradox in my head now for a while, and I think in the end that it might not be a paradox at all. It's the product of two different trends converging and telling me that there's a segment of the flow arts world that I have a very limited visibility on, and that we're at a point where the tastes of one generation are no longer driving this community, and it's time to learn more about the tastes of another. To explain why, I want to revisit Burning Man, Lucidity, Sonic Bloom, and the other events that were canceled this past year, because many of them have something very important in common. These are all festivals that are marketed under the label Transformational Events. That is, events in which attendance centers not around just getting to hear great music or seeing cool art, but about having life-changing and impactful experiences. And I think we can see a mirror to this process in the Fire and Flow Festival world too. Flow festivals similarly place themselves into the mold of transformational events implicitly, if not explicitly. Many, if not most, include eye-catching art that makes for Instagrammable backgrounds and programming built around ritual and ceremony. How many posts have you seen online from people returning from Flow or Fire festivals gushing about how life-changing or impactful they were? So it doesn't seem shocking to me that as bigger events catering to these demographic demands see a decline in attendance, we will see a similar decline in the smaller and more niche ones too. And here's the kicker. The use of the label Transformational Event was a means of marketing events specifically towards millennials. Millennials are legendary for having consumption habits centered around purchasing experiences, in contrast to their parents' habits around consuming goods. Transformational events, whether they be Burning Man or Fire festivals, very deliberately center their brand and marketing around selling those experiences. And honestly, I think we can follow a similar thread with the social media component too. Social media grew rapidly with millennials coming of age, and it was their demand to share the experiences they were purchasing in online spaces that fueled the rapid growth and later ubiquity of everything from YouTube to Facebook and Instagram. And likewise, we've seen a leveling off of engagement with social media in the past few years. Whether it's because of bad press relating to its impact on psychological health, distrust of the algorithm, or even just the need for some new novelty. By and large, social media companies have struggled to maintain the heights of engagement that they saw during the pandemic. And to be perfectly clear, I am not saying these trends are good or bad. I'm merely pointing out that they are trends. And every trend has its externalities, both positive and negative. So I think what we're witnessing with the decline of online engagement and attendance to transformational events is also the decline in influence of millennials. Many are now nearing middle age and their habits are changing as a result. And as millennials decline in influence, Gen Z and Gen Alpha are just about to reach the height of their influence on pop culture, just as millennials took over from Generation X a decade and a half ago. So if Gen Z and Gen Alpha are still spending props, and the evidence from prop sales certainly suggests that they are, how exactly are they discovering them, and how are they creating communities for them? Because they're not doing it at festivals or online. Are people switching back to community-based engagement on a local level rather than online engagement or community centered around bigger events? It could be. From what I saw last year in Seattle, they have a thriving community that is both really well organized as well as highly visible. I've also heard good things about Chicago, but haven't gotten to see it firsthand myself. That said, these cities kind of seem to be the exception rather than the rule from what I can gather. I don't hear about that many other cities that have scenes that are quite so well organized, though this may also be a result of the limits of my own experiences. There's also a really intriguing, albeit kind of sad study related to the decline in festivals that dovetails with this too. A survey released in the UK asked young people why they did not attend music festivals in the past year, and the number one response was that they didn't think that they had a friend to go with. That probably also doesn't bode well for small local communities either. Online consumption habits seem to be changing too. There's been strong growth in walled sharing apps like Discord that create private spaces for people to share things in, to say nothing of the growth in messaging apps for keeping private conversations as well. But likewise, I think this may be a bit of a red herring. In the past year, I've joined a couple Discord servers centering around flow arts or related pastimes, and what I've found is that overall the actual traffic on them related to discussing or sharing things related to using props is quite low. In most cases, they just wind up being another place where people share the odd details of the day casually. So how are Gen Z flow artists engaging with the art? I have no idea, and that's kind of exciting because it means that there's a riddle to be solved. And that, dear viewer, is where you come in. According to my YouTube analytics, 15% of you out there are under the age of 25, and I really want to hear from you. Where did you first learn about the flow arts? Do you practice alone, or do you have friends that you meet up with? How did you find those friends? Do you attend events like music, arts, or flow festivals? If so, which ones? And if not, why not? And what is it about the flow arts that speak to you? What is it that draws you toward learning how to spin, dance, or perform with a prop? Leave me some comments because I am dying to learn. Also, a quick note to those of you out there that run events, sell props, or otherwise have businesses that thrive on the participation of flow artists. Those comments are going to be a huge resource. Be sure to give them a read as well. I don't think the flow arts are going anywhere, but I am noticing a shift. One that I think shows that in the next few years, this community is going to look very different from the one that I came up in. And that's okay. Everything has a life cycle, and I appreciate the experiences that I had over the course of the past decade and a half for what they were. But I think it's also clear that it's time for a change, because the ways we used to build community don't seem to be working for the next generation coming in. And I think we should approach that with curiosity and find out what they connect with, what they want, and work to find ways that we can all feel satisfied by engaging in this art. Did you get anything out of this video? If so, please leave this video a like, a comment, share it, and subscribe to the channel. I make lots of videos on poi spinning and flow arts, and subscribing will ensure that you see my new videos right when they drop. And it helps the channel grow. This video would not have been possible without my amazing supporters on Patreon. In particular, I'd love to give a huge shout out to my Flow patrons who are listed on screen now. Thank you all so much. You rock. And if you enjoy the content that I create, but you're not a supporter yet, that's a problem that is easily remedied. Sign up for my Patreon over at patreon.com/DrexFactorPoi. And not only will you get access to awesome rewards like early access to my content or exclusive lessons, but you'll also be supporting me in my mission to bring poi spinning and flow arts to the whole world. So go check that out, please, and thank you. And if you're hungry for more video essays on the flow arts community, here's one that I did on the decline of the flow festivals and what I think caused it. Certainly, I have additional thoughts on the topic that I mentioned in this video, but that video also features much more data and a much more comprehensive and detailed approach to the problem. I'll link to that video up here on screen and down in the description. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you get out and flow yourself today, and I'll see you with a new video real soon. Take care now. Peace.